Welcome to this Florida Department of Transportation training. Assessing aesthetic effects is part of the department's video series providing guidance for sociocultural effects evaluations for transportation projects. This training has two parts. The first examines issues associated with transportation projects and community aesthetics. The second part describes how to identify and assess aesthetic effects that could result from a transportation project. Let's get started. 6 overarching issues create the framework for sociocultural effects evaluation. Aesthetic effects is one of the 6 issues. SCE evaluation considers a community's aesthetic appreciation of their environment, including human-constructed, human-influenced, and natural environments. Environmental aesthetics are closely tied to sense of place, and it is well established that sense of place is important to community well-being. Most transportation projects will alter environmental aesthetics in some manner, and these types of effects are a common reason for community resistance to projects. During SCE evaluation, the assessment of aesthetic effects encompasses potential project effects associated with noise, vibration, visual compatibility, scenic vistas and viewsheds, sensitive community focal points, local aesthetic values, and compatibility of project features with the local context. These topics are addressed in the department's SCE considerations. I will discuss each of the SCE considerations related to aesthetic effects, starting with noise. Defined as unwanted or excessive sound, noise is perhaps the most common community concern associated with transportation. Typical annoyances from everyday transportation activities are noise from vehicle engines, exhausts, brakes, horns, and tire pavement interaction. During SCE evaluation, potential noise effects are assessed relative to study area population groups and community resources. Depending on the potential for noise effects and the project phase, the project environmental evaluation may include a separate and more detailed technical evaluation of potential noise effects on human health and the environment. Long-term exposure to some transportation-related noise can cause health effects, such as hearing loss and chronic ringing in the ears. More common is nuisance-level noise that affects living and working environments in proximity to transportation facilities. More information on this topic is available in Part 2, Chapter 17 of the Department's PD&E Manual. Investigation of a community's aesthetic character and potential for effects reveals if the project is compatible with the community's sensitivity to noise. The level of acceptable noise varies by outdoor sound levels, as well as the presence of sensitive receptors such as churches, hospitals, and schools. Even moderate noise levels may be unacceptable in a quiet suburb or near an outdoor venue. Elevated noise levels could interfere with the function of a community facility, impair the ability to carry on a conversation outdoors, and even cause sleep disturbances to residents in nearby homes. Other factors that influence transportation noise levels in a community include the volume, speed, and flow of motor vehicle traffic, the types of vehicles using the facility. For instance, one truck moving at 55 miles per hour is as loud as 10 cars moving at the same speed. And barriers to sound travel such as topography, thick vegetation, buildings, and walls. The Federal Transit Administration Guide shown is a good resource on the dynamics of transportation noise generation, measurement, and effects on the environment. The next SCE consideration under the aesthetic effects issue concerns transportation-related vibration. Especially vulnerable to vibration are research, manufacturing, and medical facilities that use sensitive equipment such as optical and electron microscopes and high-resolution lithographic equipment. Computer chip manufacturing is another vibration-sensitive activity. Vibration-sensitive sites include buildings where people sleep, such as homes, hotels, and hospitals, quiet places such as schools and churches, and concert halls and similar facilities. A project can affect the quality of views from a vista or of a viewshed by blocking existing views or opening up new ones. A vista is a viewpoint providing expansive views of a landscape. A viewshed is the landscape visible from a vista. A viewshed can consist of views along a road or the aggregate views visible from a specific site, such as a park, city square, or historic landmark. Viewsheds can be of scenic or historic value to a community. Courts have ruled in the past that scenic resources contribute to public health, safety, and welfare, enhance property values and local economies, and can serve as a foundation of community identity and well-being. SCE evaluation considers whether a transportation project would blend visually in its context. The placement and design of a project can alter the visual character of the surrounding area. Visual character is the sum product of various visible elements, including land, water features, vegetation, buildings, streets, and other structures. Attention to scale, form, pattern, color, texture, and architectural style can help a project blend visually with a community's physical fabric. How the project will be seen and experienced from community focal points is assessed during SCE evaluation. Community focal points may include central business districts, parks, recreation centers, government buildings, and other places where people regularly congregate. If the project would be visible from a community focal point, especially where it was not previously visible, the potential for adverse effects on the venue's visual character is considered. Also considered is project-related noise that could interfere with the ability to communicate or conduct activities outdoors at these venues. During SCE evaluation, consideration is given to the project's compatibility with the community's aesthetic goals and values. Some communities may have articulated preferences for protecting or enhancing environmental aesthetics in local plans, codes, or design manuals. For example, a designated scenic highway may be addressed by policies in the local government's comprehensive plan and land development regulations. Community aesthetic values will not always be articulated in official government documents like these. In such instances, community values and preferences can be learned about through public outreach. To learn more about scenic highways, please refer to Part 2, Chapter 29 of the Department's PD&E Manual. The final SCE consideration under the aesthetic effects issue pertains to the compatibility of specific project features with the community character. Sometimes a project intended to address a transportation need or minimize a project effect could result in other effects. An example of this is the installation of a noise wall that, while reducing project noise levels, also necessitates removal of a community-defining feature, such as a grouping of mature trees. You can learn more about assessing aesthetic effects in Part 2, Chapter 15 of the Department's PD&E Manual. Now that we have framed the issues, let's get into how we go about identifying and assessing potential aesthetic effects. Identifying and assessing project effects are performed in Step 4 of the SCE evaluation process. At this point in the process, we will have already completed Steps 1 through 3, which involves reviewing the project information, defining a study area encompassing any areas with potential for aesthetic effects, and collecting data describing the demographics and community resources in the study area. These steps are discussed in more detail in Preparing for SCE Evaluation, a video in the Department's SCE Evaluation Training Series. Evaluating potential aesthetic effects involves three main tasks. Task A, identifying aesthetic resources and determining their level of importance to the community. Task B, assessing potential project effects on those resources, including effects that the community would view as positive or negative, and gauging the severity of any potential negative effects. The first task, Task A, is to review the community information compiled during preparation for the SCE evaluation. This information includes the project information, demographic analysis, community resource data, and prior public input. Through this task, we begin learning about the community, its context, values, and ways of life that could be affected by the project. What is known about a project at the time of the SCE evaluation will be stated in the project description. This information describes the project purpose and need, the general facility type, such as a road or a bridge, the existing and proposed facility, including the geographic location and extent of project alternatives, and physical features such as the project width or footprint and any other features of significance to the project environmental evaluation. From this information, we examine in the abstract the relationship between the project's physical and operational characteristics and the community context to understand the potential for project effects. The project demographic analysis tells us about the characteristics of population groups in the study area and their physical distribution relative to the project. We need to know about the general resident population as well as workers, business owners, and patrons, and population groups that are vulnerable to community change or that have been historically underrepresented in transportation decision-making. By knowing who is in the study area, we are better equipped to identify and avoid unintentional discriminatory actions. Learn more about preventing discrimination in transportation decision-making by reviewing the Facilitating Equitable Outcomes video series on the department's SCE webpage. In preparation for SCE evaluation, information on a full spectrum of community resources is typically compiled from a resource database, such as the department's environmental screening tool. From database information, select data that identifies aesthetic resources and conditions in the study area, including community facilities, historical and archaeological sites, land cover, and existing land use. Medical and technical facilities data may reveal noise or vibration-sensitive sites in the study area. Special designations may be telling as to a community's aesthetic resources, goals, and preferences. Supplement the database information as needed to fully portray the community's aesthetic resources, character, and goals. Interview local government planners to find out if additional information is available, such as that about valued aesthetic resources, sensitive community facilities, special designations, and local policies, plans, and programs applicable to the study area. Local news reporters or bloggers may have written about community planning or development projects that reveals the community's regard for environmental aesthetics. Going to the study area to observe conditions in the field is a necessary step to verify the database information and identify features that were not reported in the data. The final step in Task A is to assign a level of value to potentially affected resources. What is important to a community may seem apparent from our observation and professional judgment, but we shouldn't rely solely on that. Community perceptions and interpretations of value can vary widely, even among groups within a community. Perceptions of visual quality are especially subjective. Public input from a previous project phase may provide indication of a resource's significance to the community. If prior public input is not available or is inadequate for the assessment, community outreach should be conducted. Talk to neighborhood representatives and special interest groups in the area, such as the local historic society or merchants association. Public outreach is also useful for verifying the accuracy of community resource data. Task B, Assess Effects, draws from the community inventory prepared in Task A and guidance from the department's SCE considerations. During project development, the assessment considers potential direct and indirect effects, and if indicated, cumulative effects. A cumulative effects assessment is not required in a planning phase SCE evaluation, but related observations may be noted in the evaluation. To learn more on this topic, refer to the Cumulative Effects Evaluation Handbook on the department's website. To recap, here are the aesthetic effects topics addressed in the SCE considerations. By providing a response to the SCE considerations that are relevant to the project will help ensure that your SCE evaluation is thorough. The level of investigation and detail that goes into responding to the SCE considerations will depend on the potential for effects and the severity of effects, which will be covered in a later slide. The SCE considerations are available in their entirety on the department's SCE webpage. When assessing the potential visual effects of the project, consider 2 points of view: that of the population living or working in the vicinity that would look at the project from their homes or businesses, and that of the population that would use the project. Also keep in mind that a community's aesthetic character is a product of many elements. The elements work together to create a collective look and feel that the community may value highly. Therefore, the addition or elimination of one or more elements as a result of the project can have an impact on the local aesthetic. The location and extent of some project features may not be known until later project phases, such as PD&E or design. For example, stormwater facilities can influence the visual character of the surrounding area, not only by their physical presence, but also by what must be removed from the landscape to accommodate the facility. In such cases, a full assessment of associated aesthetic effects will not be possible, but recommended considerations for future phases may be documented in the SCE evaluation. Task C, Gauge Severity of Effects, is the last task in Step 4 of the SCE evaluation process. This involves assessing the character of adverse effects identified in Task B and their relationship to the community context. Consider the type, quality, and sensitivity of the affected resource and its value to the community. Assess whether the effect would be disproportionately distributed among population groups in the study area. Consider the likelihood that the effect would occur, and if it might occur even if the project were not built. Also consider the scale, extent, and totality of potential effects, including direct, indirect, and cumulative effects, and in light of project benefits to the community. The effect's duration or permanence is a factor. An effect may be construction-related and temporary, or permanently change a resource in the community. Severity is also measured by the potential to resolve the effect through practicable mitigation. And finally, when gauging the severity of effects, it is recommended that you don't go it alone. Seek input from the affected community. Project effects may be viewed by the community as the price of progress, or the community may feel that potential effects to an important resource are unacceptable. We will not know for sure how the community feels about the project unless we take the appropriate steps to find out. This concludes the training on assessing aesthetic effects. If you have questions on this or other SCE evaluation topics, please contact Dr. Rusty Ennemoser, State Public Involvement and Community Resources Coordinator. Additional SCE resources are available on the department's SCE webpage. Informational resources referenced in this video are listed on the following slide. Thank you for viewing this production of the Florida Department of Transportation.